What if the fall of Gilead doesn't begin with a war, but with teenage girls finally refusing to stay silent? After the devastating events of Episode 9, The Testaments is heading into what could be one of the most explosive finales in the entire Handmaid's Tale universe. And honestly, after everything we just witnessed, betrayal, murder, exposure, rebellion, and emotional collapse, there's no going back now. The walls around Ardua Hall are cracking. The girls are no longer obedient. Aunt Lydia is losing control. And the system that once looked untouchable suddenly feels fragile for the very first time. So today, we're diving deep into what to expect from the season finale of The Testaments, the biggest theories surrounding Daisy, Agnes, Aunt Lydia, Garth, and Becca, and why episode May 9th have secretly revealed exactly how Gilead begins tearing itself apart from the inside. Because trust me, the finale isn't just setting up one ending. It's setting up a revolution. Let's break it all down. Episode 9 changed everything. Not because of one shocking death. Not because of one betrayal. But because every major character finally crossed a moral line they can never uncross. Becca killed her own father. Daisy weaponized the system against Dr. Grove. Agnes openly challenged the structure around her. And Aunt Lydia made one terrifying thing clear. She is no longer trying to preserve innocence. She's trying to preserve control. That difference matters. Because when people stop believing in a system emotionally, its collapse becomes inevitable. And I think that's exactly where the finale is heading. Let's start with Lydia because, honestly, she might be the most important player heading into the finale. Throughout the season, Lydia has positioned herself as someone balancing impossible contradictions. On one side, she's still part of Gilead's machinery. She helped build this world. She enforces its rules. She protects its institutions. But on the other side, she clearly sees the rot spreading through the system. And episode 9 pushed her dangerously close to the edge. Dr. Grove's death creates a nightmare scenario for Lydia because it exposes something she has desperately tried to contain. The girls are no longer passive. They're reacting. Emotionally. Violently. Unpredictably. That's terrifying for someone like Lydia, who survives through structure and control. But here's the interesting part. I don't think Lydia will respond by becoming harsher. I think she's about to become more strategic than ever. Because the finale may finally reveal that Lydia has been quietly preparing for Gilead's eventual collapse all along. Remember all the secrets she's collected? All the information she's hidden? All the compromises she's made? That doesn't feel accidental anymore. It feels like preparation. And I wouldn't be surprised if the finale finally shows Lydia beginning to actively manipulate events against Gilead itself. Not because she suddenly becomes heroic, but because she understands the regime is eating itself alive. And if Lydia is secretly turning against Gilead, then Daisy may become the spark that ignites the entire rebellion. Daisy survived episode 9, but barely. Her accusation against Dr. Grove succeeded in exposing a predator, but it also placed a massive spotlight directly on her. And in Gilead, attention is dangerous. Especially because Daisy is carrying multiple identities at once. To the school, she's a developing young woman entering Gilead's marriage system. To Mayday, she's an undercover asset. To Agnes, she's becoming a trusted emotional anchor. And now, those identities are starting to collide. That's important because undercover operations usually fail the moment emotions begin overriding strategy. And Daisy is becoming deeply emotionally invested in the people around her. Especially Agnes. Especially Becca. Especially the girls suffering inside Ardua Hall. She's no longer observing the pain from a distance. She's living inside it. And I think the finale will force Daisy into an impossible choice. Protect her mission, or protect the people she's grown to love. This theory feels increasingly likely. The eyes are already investigating the school aggressively. Commander Weston is suspicious. Aunt Vidala distrusts Daisy completely. And after the Grove situation, Daisy's behavior becomes much harder to ignore. There's also the issue of her fabricated backstory. Yes, Mayday prepared her carefully. Yes, her identity mostly holds together. But the closer relationships become, the harder lies are to maintain emotionally. And the show has repeatedly emphasized how dangerous intimacy is in Gilead, because intimacy leads to honesty, and honesty destroys cover stories. I think the finale could absolutely end with someone discovering who Daisy really is.
Possibly Vidala.
Possibly Weston. Or maybe even Agnes herself. And honestly, that reveal would emotionally devastate Agnes. Because Daisy may be the first person who ever made her feel understood. But while Daisy risks exposure, Agnes may be transforming into something even more dangerous. One of the smartest things the Testaments has done this season is slowly transform Agnes, without making it obvious. At first, she seemed passive, quiet, obedient, even timid. But episode 9 shows us someone very different. Agnes is angry now. Not loud anger, not explosive anger, but buried, emotional rage. And honestly, that might be even more dangerous. Because unlike Daisy, Agnes understands Gilead from the inside. She understands how commanders think, how wives behave, how girls are conditioned, how fear spreads, and most importantly, she understands how powerless girls are expected to remain, which means her rebellion has the potential to be deeply disruptive, especially emotionally. I think Becca's arrest is going to fundamentally change Agnes moving forward. That scene destroyed something inside her. Watching Becca dragged away while she was physically restrained by Paula and Commander Mackenzie felt symbolic. Gilead literally held Agnes in place while taking away someone she loved. And moments like that radicalize people, especially when they realize obedience never actually protects anyone. Now let's talk about Becca, because I do not think episode 9 was the end of her story. In fact, I think her arrest could become one of the finale's biggest turning points.
Why?
Because Becca knows too much. She knows about Dr. Grove. She knows about Agnes. She knows about Garth. And emotionally, she's become unstable enough to potentially expose things under pressure. That creates danger for everyone connected to her, especially Garth. And this is where things get complicated, because Garth handing Becca over to the eyes may not be as straightforward as it looked. This is probably the biggest debate heading into the finale. Did Garth truly betray Becca? Or was surrendering her the only way to keep her alive? Because remember, Garth operates in morally gray territory constantly. He's balancing survival, resistance work, loyalty, and emotional attachment all at once. If Becca had remained hidden, the eyes may have escalated their investigation massively. That could have endangered Daisy, Agnes, the entire school, possibly even Mayday operations. So Garth may have believed controlled surrender was the least catastrophic option. But emotionally, that doesn't erase the damage, especially because Agnes witnessed it as betrayal. And perception matters. A lot. But here's the really terrifying theory. What if Gilead is already beginning to suspect there's a larger rebellion operating inside Ardua Hall? Episode 9 repeatedly emphasized instability inside the school. The girls are nervous. The aunts are divided. The eyes are becoming more aggressive. The commanders are interfering more directly. And trust is collapsing everywhere. That's not random. It feels like the show is preparing Ardua Hall itself to become the central battleground of the finale. Because Ardua Hall represents something bigger than just a school. It represents the future of Gilead's women. If rebellion spreads there emotionally, ideologically, or politically, the system starts losing the next generation. And authoritarian systems fear that more than anything. That's why I think the finale may feature harsh crackdowns, public punishments, interrogations, possibly even executions. Because once Gilead senses fear spreading through its institutions, it responds with overwhelming force. This feels extremely likely after episode 9. Lydia sees something in Agnes now. Not weakness. Potential. And despite her cruelty, Lydia has consistently shown unusual interest in protecting certain girls strategically. Agnes matters politically, emotionally, symbolically. Especially because Lydia likely knows far more about Agnes' true identity and family connections than most people realize. So if the finale spirals into chaos, don't be surprised if Lydia quietly intervenes to shield Agnes from the worst consequences. not out of kindness, but because Agnes may become essential to Lydia's larger plans. And then there's the biggest question of all. Could the finale finally connect directly back to June? Even when she's off-screen, June's presence hangs over this entire series. And episode 9 especially felt like the consequences of June's rebellion finally reaching the next generation. You can see pieces of June emerging everywhere now. In Daisy's defiance, in Agnes' growing anger, in the cracks spreading through Gilead's control. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if the finale ends by directly teasing June's involvement again. Maybe through Mayday. Maybe through secret communications. Maybe through revelations about Agnes herself. But the show feels like it's building toward convergence. The daughters are beginning to walk paths their mothers started years earlier. The reason this finale feels so exciting is because almost every major character is emotionally unstable heading into it. Daisy is risking exposure. Agnes is emotionally awakening. Becca is imprisoned. Garth's loyalties are fractured. Lydia is losing control. And Gilead itself feels more paranoid than ever. That combination creates chaos. And chaos is dangerous in worlds built entirely on control. The biggest thing to watch in the finale won't just be who survives. It'll be who changes. Because revolutions rarely begin with armies. They begin when ordinary people stop accepting the rules around them. And for the first time in the Testaments, that's exactly what's happening. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more The Testament's finale theories, recaps, and deep dives. Because after episode 9, Gilead may finally be running out of time.